Google searches for just your name because they're going to be looking for you. They're going to find a dead link that says permanently closed.
The captive firms are going to tell some stories about you. They may call your client.
Shelby got fired, right? Shelby was doing something like unscrupulous here. You don't know what that narrative is going to be. The last thing you want is a cease and desist after your launch and you're having to rebrand everything.
You need your website, et cetera, to say, hey, I'm better than ever. I've done this really thoughtfully. I care about my clients so much that I'm making this move. So you've made the decision to break away. You've got the vision, the clients, you have the courage, but have you created a compelling brand? Because here's what I see. In today's landscape, no launch succeeds without a great story. A clear, compelling narrative is what moves clients to follow you. It's what sets your new firm apart and what turns a client's leap of faith into a confident, lasting growth for your business. Today, I'm joined by Kevin Nichols. He's a branding expert and partner at Oechsli. He's going to join us to talk about what makes or breaks a successful launch and why branding and marketing is not the place to go on the cheap. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Shelby. I'm excited to be here today.
Awesome. Well, let's start where advisors find themselves. They've made the decision to leave. You know, obviously they're licensed, all the things. They've got their custodian. We figured out their entity. We kind of know the team that's coming with. Next big thing, we've got to create a new brand. They're coming out of a captive. Maybe it's a Wirehouse, it's a Merrill or a Morgan or even an Edward Jones. They have to create a new brand. What should they be immediately thinking about? And I want to hear like the good and the bad and the real deal.
Yeah, I mean, what they're thinking about probably internally is one of two things. One is that, hey, I'm going to do this myself, right, with the help of a chat GPT or Gemini or whatever AI program, or I'm going to hire someone to help me with it. And obviously I'm extremely biased here, right? But I think there's a lot of benefits to hiring an outsider to come in, really learn about what that advisor, their values, what they're trying to portray, how they're trying to appeal to the next market, and build a brand that's really intentional. I just feel like that's the biggest first decision. And then from there, it's usually naming. It's like, you know, what am I going to call myself? And there's a lot of decisions to be had there.
Yeah. One of the things that you've said in the past is that this is not a time to cheap out, which is something I tell my clients too. Like I tell them things like, I don't like crappy marketing. I want really good marketing on day one.
Yeah, you want something that you want to show off, right? And when we think about a transition, we sometimes refer to these as like the 3 C's of a really good marketing transition here. And one is going to be clarity of the message that you want to get across to clients, right? The clarity of that, the distribution of that message. The second is going to be the confidence, right? Like going in and being really confident in this new brand that you're building. And then the third is credibility. And I think that's probably the biggest one. And what I'm trying to get at here is that when someone looks at your new website, someone sees your new logo, you hand them that business card, like it looks really good, right? I mean, you're leaving a firm with incredible branding.
Yes.
I mean, you're leaving a firm that is, has a great reputation. And what we don't want to look like is that something that's half-baked, something that's like, you know what, I think I'm leaving, and I decide I'm leaving tomorrow, and I'm kind of putting all the pieces together, and that's not giving clients confidence either, or that credibility.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think it creates the confidence that you need to go into the conversations as the advisor, to go into the conversations with the right mindset either.
That's
right. I like my folks to exit and to be super proud, feel really good about what they built, and then even have things like their own apps in the App Store, things like that say, hey, you didn't just get fired, because often the captive firms are going to tell some stories about you, and you need your stuff, your website, et cetera, to say, hey, I'm better than ever. I've done this really thoughtfully. I care about my clients so much that I'm making this move.
Yeah, some firms, it's they're going to Google you and find your name, and it's going to be your old firm, and it's going to say closed permanently on Google.
Ooh,
right?
Yeah.
And that isn't the right look. Instead, I want to be front and center with my new brand, and I want to control that narrative.
Yes.
So that first decision to me is, do I DIY this or do I hire someone, to do this professionally? Mm-hmm. And, we're both biased by this. And I actually love working with consultants like yourself, because I think that they take that same approach of like, we're going to do this at the highest level. Like, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. We're not going to just kind of willy-nilly throw this out there and, that logo is good enough. And I remember there was an advisor recently, and by the way, like, we're involved in so much of this early on in them making decisions about their marketing. And he said, well, you know what, I'm just going to make my logo via chat, and I was like, okay, that's fine if you want to do that. And he sent over some of the logos, and I was like, please don't do this. Like, do you want that on a coffee mug? Do you want that? Like, are you really proud of that? And long story short, he was not, right? So.
Yeah. He saw the light, as it were. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let's start at like the first decision that we have to make, which is naming.
Yeah.
Talk about, like, naming is so hard, right? And especially when we've got multiple people in the practice, it becomes really difficult. But even without that, I think naming is hard, because at some point you have growth ambitions. And, one of the first questions is, do I name it after myself or not?
Yeah. You're right. Naming is the hardest thing we do. And I'll tell clients that from the very beginning. Do I name it after myself? I think it depends. I'm not saying that that's the wrong thing to do. I've seen plenty of advisors do that, right? And I think it's the easy thing to do. Yeah. I think it's easy to say, hey, I'm Nichols Investment Management, which actually sounds kind of cool because it has some money tie there. Funny enough, our last names are so similar.
They are.
Nicholl and Nichols. Actually sounds really good, right? Nicholl and
Nichols.
Investment Management. Ooh, or private wealth, maybe? I'm joking.
I know, but then would we just need to say we're a dime,
Oh, that's the tagline. That's the tagline.
Oh.
So get your money's worth. I don't know. But anyway, no, naming it after yourself. So I think that's the easy thing to do.
More than 2 cents. Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Yes, yeah, more than our 2 cents. I think that you run into issues in a couple areas, right? One is that if you want to bring on future advisors, other advisors to the firm with the growth ambition that you just talked about. And I saw this not too long ago. We're in the middle of working with a client right now who said, we're going to name it, XYZ and ABC Financial, right? Just they're both of their last names, Jones and Smith Financial. And then as we're getting into logo design, they say, oh, by the way, after launch, a couple months after launch, another advisor is going to join us, but they're not excited about the names being, Jones and Smith Financial. Like, we've created this issue now, right? And and if your plan is to add more people, I think that's an issue. So we had to go back. We said, you know what, we really need to go back, and you really need to consider naming, and it's going to alleviate all of these issues. They were trying to come up with names, and they were just kind of all out there. So I think that's a really big one. The other would be just, competitors. If you have a really common last name and someone searched, like, you're going to be harder to find via Google. So that's another one as well. What a lot of firms like if you're moving to a bigger entity here, a larger RIA, is like they like unique names, and that's hard.
Yeah.
They like something that no one else has. And because that's going to avoid some headaches down the road. The last thing you want is a cease and desist, 3 months after your launch, and you're having to rebrand everything. It just feels embarrassing, right?
Yeah, it would. Mm-hmm.
It would, and I've seen it, and it's not fun to deal with, and it's not fun to rebrand at that point. So coming up with something that's creative and unique, and that's where I think an agency like ours really helps a lot, to come in and just give you some ideas that, after searching through BrokerCheck and seeing over like 200 summit financial advisors, coming up with something that no one else has, but still feels true to the advisor.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I see in your all's work that's so specific is even in logo design, bringing in something from the hometown, or there's a lot of artistry, both in naming and then definitely into logo design, especially. But I do think that uniqueness is something you get to know the clients or the advisors. You get to know their practice.
Yeah, you get to know them. It's harder to do, obviously, to come up with something that's unique. And if any advisor right now is watching this and is in this hole, because we get calls from advisors who are in this where they're like, you know what, I came up with a really good name and then I found out that another advisor has it. They've actually already trademarked it. That's where we can come in and kind of rethink things a little bit. But I do think for the long term, that's going to be better. Also, when you're thinking about selling that practice at some point, exiting that practice, do I want to build a brand that's Nicholl and Nichols, right? And I'm selling that versus a brand that feels like it can stand completely on its own. And that has more brand equity already in the marketplace. And because if I'm buying that book, right, I'm going to absorb it. I'm probably not going to keep that Nicholl and Nichols name, or I'm not going to be excited about it.
That's right. And then you've got a shift for those clients, and it creates a potential money in motion event, right? Because you've created change for them in a way that didn't need to be there. Yep. It's a great point, whether you're doing internal succession, you're selling to private equity, you're selling, to whomever. Yep. That naming is going to be an important element.
It is. And like once we get past that, I feel like everything else is like smooth. But it's one of the sticking points, and one that, I was on a call yesterday with a team, and we are literally in like their third round of naming, right? Mm-hmm. They've really had a tough time landing on a name, and they brought in one of their spouses on the call who does marketing, right? Mm-hmm. And she said, she literally said this, why not just Summit Financial or Peak Financial? And I was like, well, the firm that they're with right now, like, is going to require it to be unique. So like, that's not even really an option. But also we were talking about just that battle online for placement. It's going to be really hard. And it was interesting for her. I think it was eye-opening for her she's like, why can't we just use a name that everyone else has? And then the advisors were like, I kind of actually don't want that name. Like, I want something that's different and unique.
Yeah. Well, and I think that conversation of reminding them of the why they don't want that name, and sort of the idea of like, how do you get to the top of Google reviews or on Google or in chat or whatever, is an important thing. Talk about, when you think about unique names, how do you confirm it's unique? You mentioned BrokerCheck a minute ago.
Yeah, I think BrokerCheck and USPTO, searching in the financial industry, are kind of two preliminary checks that we run. But then you need to have a legal review of it. You need to have an attorney come in and kind of give you that official stamp of approval. I always tell people, like, I'm not an attorney. I've run some preliminary searches here. I'll run Google searches as well, just to see what we can find. But in general, those are some preliminary searches to make sure that no one else has that name.
Yeah. And I think your guys' domain expertise is unique too, because like we can go to lots of local providers, if you will, of marketing and naming, but they don't know our industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Knowing the industry, knowing what works, I think, in terms of the themes that we're going to go after for names. And that's what we want to come out of with a discovery call. If I was having a call with you, I'd want to come out with 2 or 3 themes. And it could be, I don't know, it could be illumination. It could be clarity. It could be, I want to come out with some of those themes, and then I can take that and I can run with it. But as you might imagine, in this industry, some of those themes are very similar, right? There's a lot of overlap there.
Yeah, I think about even naming my own firm, right, and of Muriel Consulting, and I wanted something that was about trailblazing. I wanted something that was historical. And so, I was able to find that, but it was an interesting conversation to really think about, like, what do I want this name to be? Where do I want to find inspiration from?
Do your listeners know the meaning behind it? Because when you told me this morning, I was like, oh, that's really good.
Oh, yeah. So Muriel Consulting is named after Muriel Siebert, and she was the first woman member of the New York Stock Exchange, and she was a self-described trailblazer and maverick, but basically started her firm because the guys weren't paying her enough. So she started her firm, and then she was still at kind of a disadvantage. So she went and got her own seat on the New York Stock Exchange as the first woman member. So
amazing.
Really cool story. I wanted that history nod. Like, that was important to me.
And the history nod, the name story, that's something that we would craft as well. So, because what's going to happen is all your clients are going to be like, why'd you name it that? What is that? Right? What's going on? And then you can say, well, confidently, here's why we named it this, right? Yeah. And a little bit of that name story is going to be really important. When you're thinking about creative names, because you can imagine almost every regular word has been taken in this industry. A lot of times we'll do kind of mashups or combine words. So, for example, I'm thinking about a team that we work with. Their name is Guidant, right? And it's guidance plus intention, right? Guidant. There's another team we work with, and they love the name Tandem, and they wanted it to be called Tandem. And as you can imagine, there's other firms called Tandem. There's a bunch. So then we started looking into variations of it, and we came up with In Tandem, but actually the French spelling of it. And we took that and we ran with it, and they loved it, and no one has that. There's an advisor we just rebranded recently. His name is 82nd, and it's a nod to his father who started in the business, and he was in the 82nd Airborne Division. And so 82nd Wealth, like it works, right? And he started choking up on the call, right? When we show those kinds of names. So you have to do a lot of soul searching. You have to dig deep with these names. And then you have to also cross them off the list when you find someone who has it. And so it's a lot of work, but at the end of it, you feel good about, gosh, we have a name that nobody else really has. I can build that brand however I want to build it. And then I need to go and probably start the trademark process so that no one takes it from me at some point.
Yeah, that's great. I feel like name is such an important kind of linchpin in the discussion. And then the next piece is going to be obviously logo and that creative, but especially the website, because the website to me is like the place where it all comes to life. It's like all of your name story and your creative comes to life in the website. And it's that like first calling card, if you will. It's that credibility piece. How do you approach websites?
Yeah. So I like to approach websites with having a brand identity first. So I really like having a solid logo, but then thinking about all the brand expressions that come from that logo. And what that will look like. And so building on those, because then if I can build all of that and it looks super cohesive, I can give it to our web developers here, and they can take it and really just, it makes their life a heck of a lot easier, but it creates this really cohesive look and feel, which is the credibility piece. What I don't want it to look like is kind of a random photo here, random blurb text here. Hey, click on this video down here. Like I want it to just feel so together and tight. Everything from the colors to the textures, to what the navigation looks like, all of it. I mean, to me, the brand identity is going to lead to a really good website.
Yeah. And when you say brand expressions, what do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, thinking about how this brand is going to live on anything from, something physical like a hat, that's Tomorrow Wealth, that's Frame Wealth. I have a really, I have a bad habit of I want to collect all of it. Like I have a million stickers of all the brands that we've built. I just like seeing the work that we've done. Thinking about what it would look like on a slide deck, a pitch deck, right? To me, that's where you get a lot of, hey, here's some of the stock photography we might use, which actually can look good if we don't go too cheesy with it, along with some custom photography, but thinking about all the places it lives on social as well, on what it would look like on a Google ad, what it would look like absolutely everywhere. And so then I can come in and say, okay, here's what this brand identity is. And you can really hand that to anyone. It's like giving them the keys to a car, and then they can take that and they could build a website, and it's going to look in line as long as they follow some of those brand guidelines.
Yeah. I always think about the hats and shirts, because especially we got 80% of advisors are male. They love a golf shirt, right?
Yes.
We love them. And we want to see it embroidered on that shirt. And embroidery is like really, like you can't have a super teeny tiny,
Thank you for saying
unique,
this.
Or I should say unique, but like super little stitching on there. It's got to be clean.
Yeah, the legibility of it is huge. And gosh, I feel like I talk a lot about just the importance of simplicity in logos. And now you have all this backlash with like Cracker Barrel and them simplifying. My opinion, it wasn't that bad. I actually thought it was, I mean, maybe they went a little too far, but when you think about how clients are going to interact and see your brand for the first time, most of the time it's going to be digital.
Yeah.
And so it needs to be really legible all the way to the point of the favicon, which is like the little icon in the browser tab. Like, is that legible? Like, or does it just look like a blob? And this is where you run into issues again with using a ChatGPT or something to design your logo. They're going to put way too much detail typically. And when you scale it down, it's nothing, right? It doesn't, you can't tell exactly what it is. Whereas we want something that's unique, stands out, and that's simple.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. And you're leaving again that big, well-known brand, right? And so it's got the credibility level has to be high. And that does not mean a crappy stitched shirt that is not legible.
Right.
Yeah.
No, agreed. And yeah, I mean, when I get into and too much, like,
I sound so judgy. I'm like, we can't have.
I feel judgy in these. Like a lot of times I'll show advisors an extreme example of this, which is State Street and like their rebrand. They had this iconic ship for a while, and the ship had a lot of detail in it.
It did, yeah.
And it's a cool logo. It's cool, right?
Yeah.
Now, when you think about just how things change and how so much of this is digital, and I'm looking at you on my phone, and when you scale that ship down, it's very, very hard to discern what that is, and it loses a lot of its crispness that it would have if it was larger. So then they went really simple. Now, I think they almost went too extreme with it, and they have just a few lines, right, for State Street now. But that's a good example that I'll show clients on the front end of a logo kind of discovery process, just to kind of get them in the mindset of, you know what, I do need to think about being a little simpler here. That doesn't mean that I can't be luxury. That doesn't mean that I can't have some interesting detail, right, or a couple of Easter eggs inside of the logo itself. But I need to think about simplicity. It usually wins.
Yeah. When you think about Easter eggs in logos, tell me more about how you do that.
Easter eggs. I mean, usually that's going to be maybe a hidden monogram, a hidden letter M in the logo. Like, let's say Mariel, and we designed an icon for you. And they're like, oh, there's an M in there, and I didn't realize that until I saw it. I always think about upward pointing anything for designs for advisors. Usually, if it's up and to the right, it wins, right? Like they're like, oh, I like that, right? And it could be subtle, but those are the little kind of things that are, I think, take your logo and make it more memorable too.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got our name. We have a great logo that's going to display properly across many mediums. Our website is going to be somewhere that clients are going to hit, right? We've asked them to come with us, or we've announced it in most cases. We've announced our move. They're going to go out and look at our new website.
Definitely.
What should they be seeing right away?
Yeah. So I want to, with any advisor here, I want to take them back to what's the goal of this website? What is the goal? And the goal is to communicate clearly, confidently, right? Like front and center, and to ultimately transition clients. Like that's the goal right now. Like I'm in that transition phase. Could be 6 months, could be 12 months, right? So the website needs to reflect that. And what it doesn't need is it doesn't need a lot of pop-ups with lead magnets or subscribe to my newsletter. And no. We're kind of ahead of that. Right now, I want front and center a nice, I'd say hero statement, right? Something that's, hey, here's what we do. And it's clear. Clarity wins. And then I love a video. I love a transition video, big and bold on the front, that with a big play button, someone clicks on it and they can hear from you directly. Hey, a message to my client. Here's what we're doing. Here's why we did it. Here's why it's beneficial to you. And that video too is one that I don't like DIY'd either, because it's all impressions. And you can say, gosh, well, it's good enough. It's they're going to judge it. Like we were talking about us being judgy, like clients are going to judge this as well. And they can tell the difference between, gosh, they really care about this transition. They're really excited about this brand, and they look how amazing this looks, and that instills confidence in the client versus, hey, it's me with my phone on a tripod, and it's like, hey, here's a message to you guys. Like, I'm excited about. Like, it just feels like, oh gosh, this is a big move for them. It's a little scary. They're judging all those little micro signals like that.
Yes.
And so I love a video that's either on panel 1 of the website, like the hero, or at least panel 2, where they can scroll and they see it and it's in their face and they want to watch it right away. Then contact information has to be the main kind of CTA here, usually upper right, again at the bottom of the site, maybe dispersed throughout a few spots, but how to reach us. And making that's the goal. Like, if they want to contact us in some way, we make it really clear, really abundant. I like CTAs that are a color that is not used on the website anywhere else because it just really pops out. Or maybe just in subtle places, but I like something bold. I'm not trying to hide, how to reach out to us.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I hadn't thought about that, but using color very specifically to clue people in. This is the CTA. You're going to see it in the same color throughout the site.
When we're building the brand identity, like we'll even put that in there. Like, we'll have a color palette and we'll say, here's a color that really kind of jumps out and is a little more brazen than the other colors, a little bit more bold.
Yeah.
And that's a good CTA button. Like, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. What are some other kind of like credibility signals for the website?
Making sure that it's mobile friendly. Again, this is sometimes can be a DIY thing, but a lot of them are going to just pull up their phones, right? And they're going to look at you. And if it feels, even for just an ounce of scattered, or gosh, there's a big break of nothing. Like, what is this? Then it feels homemade. Then it feels like, I am doing this out on a whim and I didn't really think all of this through. So that's another one. I think another credibility signal could be high-end photography as well. Mm-hmm. They're going to want to see your face. Don't hide that. Like, clients are going to want to see you. And that doesn't mean that another phase of your website down the road you might want to go more corporate, right? Later on. But for now, like, I need that reassurance that Shelby left and Shelby's right there and I see her face and, and it looks really good. Mm-hmm. So I think those two things are additional kind of credibility. Really clean navigation. Gosh, I feel like I could go on a lot here, but just the formatting as well. Using fonts that are a little bit more high end and not just everyday kind of. Here's the Arial font that those are all these little micro signals that tell a client, like, wow, this looks really good. Like, this is really
that's
polished.
Interesting. Yeah, even those little signals. I think the copywriting too, like any way that you can like tie back into the name or to your name story, like inserting those words. I have a client that moved earlier in the year, and for her, she did something on FMG, and it was one of the first times though where my client worked with them so specifically that like all the bullet points lined up. Just there's these little tiny clues, right, that sometimes can get overlooked, right?
Yes.
Where bullet points aren't, it'll be a circle and a dot in the middle. Well, the dot in the middle is not actually in the middle, right?
Right.
Like, tiny little things, but they're little clues as to how seriously you took it. Her naming was Venture Stone Wealth because she does a lot of adventure stuff.
Okay.
And so she has a name story, but she, even in that sense, worked with, and FMG is good and bad, right? There's elements that are positive about it, but she worked with them so hard that it turned out really well.
Yeah.
But you have to do that. If you're going to go that route, you have got to take a lot of kind of ownership of it and really work with your partner to get it perfected.
Right. And one thing I'll tell someone who's thinking about it, and I would almost consider that a DIY. I wouldn't. It's
like DIY plus. Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. It's like what I'll tell a client is, if you want that responsibility,
like,
do you want that responsibility of, yes, being on top of everything and making sure that everything looks right and your brand is right and it feels cohesive. If you want that, like, that's fine. That's okay. But if you want more of a turnkey, like, gosh, I know that they're going to do a good job and they're going to work with me until I'm happy. That's when you come to more of an agency.
Yeah, I think a premier shop. And I have no doubt that she's going to land with you guys at some point in time. And it's going to be really fun to see what you guys get to do with her.
Awesome.
With her brand. She's so interesting. She drove professional motorcycles.
Oh, cool.
She drives planes. I
love that.
Yeah, there's a lot of really interesting things to weave into her future marketing. So
Nice.
I'm excited when she's ready to go to that point. Let's talk a little bit more about launch period. So we've got our name, we have a good logo that shows up everywhere. We have a really clean website. It has a lot of pictures of us. We've highlighted our team there too, probably. What other things should we be doing at launch?
Right. And again, this is one where if you want that responsibility, right?
Right.
Because I think sometimes advisors they want to hear something about a breakaway or transition that no one's ever heard of before. They want something that's so unique. Oh my gosh, I never thought of that. As opposed to what really makes this work are all these moving parts coming together at the end of that launch. That's just boom. It's we turned on a switch and here we are. So outside of the brand building and the website and the video, right, and photography, the day of, I want socials to go live, right?
Yes.
Which means I want, that LinkedIn company page, probably a Facebook company page. I want a Google business profile. I want all of these things just to turn on.
They are queued up and ready to go.
They're ready. They're approved.
Yes.
They're ready. They look amazing. They feel cohesive. That's one. The other that you could think about is a press release. I don't think this is a necessity necessarily, but I want you to think about just, again, what's that client doing? What's that client? They're probably going to run a search on Google and find out, gosh, what is Shelby doing, right? What's Shelby up to? And are they just seeing the old firm, right? Or are they seeing other articles about your transition to make it exciting? Press release to me is a take it or leave it. It's not the most crucial element here, but it's a nice one to have, and it's not that difficult with PR Newswire and such. Another would be, and this is one that I wish advisors did more, and that's running Google ads.
Yes, yes, I love this one.
To
love
me,
this
one, and running Google ads for your new company name, because look, your new website might have a URL it's brand new. It has no domain authority. It's not popping up right away, right? When someone searches for, Guidant or whatever it is, whatever your new name is, it's not elevated right away. It's going to take a little bit of time, right? It hasn't been crawled. Our website team is always give it time, right? The internet will find it. So if I can run a Google search and I can have an ad pop up that's Shelby Nicholl launches, blah, 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 right away. There she is. I can find her. Also running Google searches for just your name.
Yes.
Because they're going to be looking for you, and either they're going to find a dead link that says, permanently closed, and they're thinking oh gosh, something happened. Shelby got fired, right? Yes. Shelby was doing something unscrupulous here, right? Or what?
And they may call your clients, right? Depending on where you're coming from, they'll call your clients and say things like,
you don't know what that narrative is going to be. You don't know. And so even just your name and having your name pop up as an ad, hey, again, it's, running those searches right away, because clients are going to do it. They're going to want to do a little bit of their own research no matter what they hear. And I want to show them the site. I want to control the narrative as much as possible. So those are things. Print materials, which seems old school in some ways, but you're going to want to be able to show a client oh yeah, here's my new business card. Here's it. You're going to want to have some stuff you can hand out. I also like pitch decks as well, which would be just an overview of the firm. It's almost like taking the website and putting it in a PDF format, something you can forward around, you can send around to people really easily. I also like running social ads the day of, and especially ones that are geo-targeted, local. We always talk about trying to be locally famous, but I want people in their feed being oh my gosh, did you see that? Hey, Kevin just launched this new firm. Oh, did you see? I want buzz about that. What I'm trying to do is get the word out, scale my message as best I can, and control the overarching narrative about why I'm launching this. And then when they're landing, they're like, this looks great. Like, this looks like the real deal.
And it looks cohesive to what they were just seeing in the ads. It all is fitting together. Even though, to your point earlier, those little clues of how the lines are spaced, et cetera, makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like people pick up. We're so perceptive, and we make those snap decisions just by looking at something. We're seeing something that's off, and we're like, did they do this themselves? Like, is this a good idea? Should we just stay with our current firm? Is this the best idea? Like, maybe we
should give them time to get it together.
There you go. Yes. Let's see how it pans out. Right. Let's see how it pans out. And instead, I want them thinking, oh, look at this. They're doing it the right way. Right.
Yeah. When you talked a moment ago too about things like, especially kind of geocached ads, Facebook ads, et cetera. That can also be part of like the announcement strategy, because you won't be able to get, for large practices, big wirehouse teams, big, captive firm teams, your book of business is going to be spread across multiple advisors in your old office, and they're going to get to your people faster than you possibly can.
Yep.
And so by at least having an announcement strategy like that, you're able to say, I announced it to the world at the same time. I then started calling. But,
yes. Yeah.
It sort of takes away some of that pressure.
We want to hit them from multiple touch points, right? I don't want it just to be a call. I want them to also see me in their newsfeed a few times, right? I also want them to maybe see a press release about it. When they run a Google search, I want them to find me and see my new website. I think that those are all, I want to just, again, hit them from multiple angles. This is a huge transition. And for most advisors, I think it's one of the biggest transitions of their career. It truly is. And I feel it. And I know you feel it. I feel the nervousness sometimes. I feel the stress. I feel the stress of, and I'll tell you, once everything turns on and everything is running, it's hard to even get a hold of them, right? Because they're in transition mode. So all of these things have to be done in advance. They have to be ready, and then we launch the day of, and it's just like a little well-oiled machine, and then they can focus on the clients. Like, that's what they can focus on, and that's what the advisor should be focused on.
That's a great point. The more we can plan this up front, then we're not saying, hey, approve this social post on day one, approve this on day two, right? Like, we don't want to take your time and attention off of calling clients, having those productive conversations.
Because they don't approve it.
Like
our social team here will be like, they're not approving anything. And it's like, because we have to get all of those approved in advance. We have to build up this and have it all scheduled. It's ready to go. All these launch announcements. And when those announcements look really good and they have your photo on them, right? And professional photos and again, the branding and everything looks cohesive, you feel better about it too.
That's right. It's a confidence booster for yourself, and it's a mindset for yourself. It's also one for your team. Everybody who's answering the phone that day has a little extra confidence because they know that we've launched as a pro should.
Exactly. And again, it's not like there's something magical that makes the launch like so much better. I think it's just all of these parts having to come together. I think that's why having a consultant like you makes a ton of sense. And again, this is a huge transition. Hiring an agency like us where you have an account manager who's there with you too for all the marketing stuff and it stays on you about deadlines. Can we talk about deadlines?
Can we talk about that? Yes.
Because
we've got a lot of deadlines in those last weeks of driving up to the launch date, right? There is a lot going on.
There is.
We want to get ahead of it where we can, but we gotta keep our deadlines or we can't launch on time.
We can't launch on time. Everything gets pushed back or something suffers in the process.
That's right. The stress gets so out of control when it didn't have to.
Yeah. I've been on calls before where we're going through naming, branding something, and we're like, how are you guys? We'll ask the advice, how are you feeling? Oh, this is a lot. This feels like a lot. Okay, well, usually what I'll say is like, just so you know, and I believe it, it's the truth. we looked at these, let's say 6 names today. I think all of them can work. Mm-hmm. Like I'm not going to show you a name that I don't think is going to, I think we can successfully launch any of these. Same thing with a logo. I'm going to show you 3 logos today. All of them can work. So they need to have confidence that like, you know what, that's right. And I can't overthink it too much. Sometimes the brand, they get really obsessed over it. And the benefit of hiring an agency is like, I'm not going to show you anything that I don't think is going to work. Like I'm just not. But if you miss a deadline and then we're pushing naming back and then we're pushing logo and then you have to build a website in 2 weeks and we've done it, it's not going to feel the same. Here's what it's going to look great. Like I'll tell you, it's going to look great and our developers are going to do a good job, but you won't have enough time to give the feedback that you really want to give. You're not going to have that time to really think through things and read everything super thoroughly. It's like you're going to have to rely on us. And frankly, it drives our web team crazy when it's like, gosh, we have to launch in a week. We have to build the site in a week. No, let us be intentional and thoughtful about it. And as our account manager gives you deadlines, take them seriously. Like they're going to be on you. One of our account managers the other day, she forwarded me an email where they called her a pest. They said, "Oh, she's being a pest about this."
Well, and she should be. Yes.
And that's what I said. I said she was really upset about it.
That is her job, is actually to be a pest so that you have a successful launch.
I said, I think that's really rude. Like, you know what it was?
100%.
It was in a forwarded message, and our account manager read it, and so she didn't think that our account manager would ever see it.
Oh.
So I thought it was rude, and then she wanted to respond and say and call it out. And I was like, don't, we're going to take the higher road. It's fine. That's not, they're stressed. They're super stressed about this.
Yeah.
But second is you're just doing your job, Rachel. Like that's what you should be on them, right?
Yes.
That's what you're keep doing what you're doing. I don't care if what I care about is if you come and they're like, I never heard from them. No, That's the issue. I want you to be in their inbox. Hey guys, we need the decision today on this so we can move forward. We got to get print materials done, right? We got to do this. Like you need that pest, right?
Yes.
You need that person in your life.
Yes, that's right. And that I think is the role of the agency. It's the role that I play too often is we've got to get these things done or we won't be able to launch well. And going back to the website, one thing I would say is that it feels like when you've had time to absorb your web content and to provide the input, it has maybe more soul to it. It has a depth that is really hard to get when you're building it in a week's time.
Without a doubt. If it feels infused with the advisor, it feels like their voice, it feels as opposed to, and again, we can write copy from nothing, right? And what the DIY advisors do sometimes is it's just 100% chat, right? And you can tell. But by the way, we use all these AI tools too, but then we'll have a professional copywriter come in and clean it all up, right? And make it more concise. And anyway, I'll
eliminate the M dashes. I'm kidding.
Please do that. That'll drive me absolutely crazy. So anyway.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are nearly at the end of our time. We have had a great conversation. I'd love to do a little bit of a lightning round here at the very, very end.
Okay.
What is one thing, just thinking broadly about advisors and advisor marketing, what is one thing that you think advisors should just stop worrying about when it comes to marketing?
Stop worrying about?
Mm-hmm.
The name.
The name,
and I know, and I mean that because, again, I want it to be creative and unique and all that stuff, but also sometimes they get so hung up on the spelling or something weird. And look, there's so many brands out there that have what seemingly feel like random names, and you will actually attribute the value to that brand, to that name over time, but they become household names over time. So don't overthink the name too much. Don't get too hung up on it.
Yeah. All right. And what's one trend in advisor marketing that you're really excited about?
Video. More of it. Just the authenticity, feeling like people know you. Just speaking from our own experience, we have 600 videos on YouTube now. And sometimes I'll talk to an advisor and they're like, oh my gosh, I feel like I know you. I'm like, you don't know me at all, but you feel like that because of the authenticity that comes across. Also the SEO components of YouTube, and we won't get into that. That's a whole nother conversation. But YouTube and video, to me, that's a big one. And when you're thinking about breakaways, do that transition video.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Okay, this was so fantastic. Before we close, I always ask every guest this one question. What is one way that you're living an off-script life today?
I knew you were going to ask me this one, and I was struggling with it. I tried to prepare a little bit, and if you've ever seen our podcast, I don't prepare a lot. I tried to prepare here. For me personally, I live a pretty normal life, right? Family, kids, play pickleball, right? I play music, I play band. I do a lot of things. In terms of something off script, something different, I think just being a business owner in and of itself is living a little bit off script.
It is.
When myself, Stephen, Heidi took over ownership like 8 years ago, we were a coaching company. We were coaching and live speaking, and that's it, right? And then we said, you know what? Like, why can't we build websites? Like, why can't we know advisors? And I've seen some really lousy, we can do this better. Why can't I build a brand? So the off script part for me is seeing opportunities, playing without a net a little bit. And that's a Matt Oechsli quote. He used to say all the time, hey, Kevin, play without a net. He was an amazing mentor in that way. But when you see an opportunity for something, especially inside of your business, just to try it, it may fail. It doesn't always work out. But that's how you live a little bit off script. And that's how all of a sudden, like, our main line of business now is websites. Like, think about 10 years ago, and it was live speaking events. And that's what it was. That was a huge part of it. Writing books, speaking. Right now we're building websites, and we're building a lot of them. And so that happens through living off script, through trying new things, through
living without a net.
Playing without a net. Play without a net. That's what Matt used to always say to us. He's like, because I typically had always been a person that is get ready to get ready to get ready. Yeah. Oh no, like, we're not there yet. We will be. We're not there. He's like, no. You learn through the process of doing sometimes. And if an opportunity presents itself, you just have to go for it and give it a shot. That's how we've, who would have thought, like, if you would have told Matt Oechsli 10 years ago that Oechsli would be shooting videos for JP Morgan on Park Avenue, right? Like, he'd been like, are you serious? But like, that's our off script. That's our, gosh, we can do it. We know we can do it. So
I love it. That is such an inspirational way to end this. And I think for a lot of advisors who are going independent or breaking away, standing up their own brands, like, going full on entrepreneurship, like, they are living off script. That's awesome.
They're doing it.
I love it. Well, that is it for today's episode of Advisors Off Script. If you found it valuable, subscribe, leave a review, all the things. And remember, it's not just a podcast. We gave you a bit of a playbook today for living boldly and building a life that is off script. Thanks so much.